Welcome. Today, we're going to talk about a group you've probably never heard of, but whose story is right at the center of some of the biggest, most out there conspiracy theories today. We're talking about the Milner Group, a circle of British empire builders whose legacy is either, a dusty footnote in a history book or the secret blueprint for our entire modern world.
So here's the central question we're tackling. How on earth does a group of guys from over 100 years ago trying to keep the British Empire from falling apart have anything to do with what we see in the news today? We're talking connections to figures like Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and even the conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East. It sounds kind of crazy, but there's a surprisingly detailed story that ties it all together. So let's unpack it.
Okay, first things first, we have to start with the official academic history. Before we get into all the conspiracies and secret societies, we really need to understand who the Milner Group, also known as the Round Table Movement, actually was according to the history books.
Right. So let's walk through the timeline. It all starts after the Boer War in South Africa. A top British official named Alfred Milner gets a bunch of smart, young guys from Oxford together. They were his protégés, and people started calling them Milner's Kindergarten. Their job? Figure out how to save the crumbling British Empire. By 1909, this little club becomes official. It's the Round Table Movement. They even start a magazine to get their ideas out there. And get this, by 1920, they help create two of the most powerful foreign policy think tanks that still exist today, Chatham House in London and the Council on Foreign Relations, the CFR, over in the US.
So what was their big idea? Well, it was called Imperial Federation. Basically, the plan was to turn the British Empire into one giant superstate, kind of like the United States, but made up of Britain, Canada, Australia, South Africa, you name it. They'd have one single parliament to handle all foreign policy, defense, and trade for everyone. For them, it was just a smart, practical fix for a huge geopolitical headache.
And you know what? They were incredibly influential. Their whole operation got its seed money from the trust of the famous imperialist Cecil Rhodes. And while their grand federation plan never fully happened, their ideas directly shaped what became the modern Commonwealth. They had a huge say in British policy on everything from Palestine to India for decades. But, and this is the key part, they did it all very quietly as a tight-knit network of insiders. And that secrecy is exactly what opened the door for a totally different story to be told about what they were really up to.
Okay, let's pivot. We've heard the official version. Now we're going to dive into what some researchers call the hostile brief, the really critical, conspiratorial take on the Milner Group. This is where the story takes a sharp turn.
This quote right here gets straight to the point. From this perspective, the Round Table wasn't just some think tank. No, it was a front for a secret society carrying out Cecil Rhodes's original vision, all designed to pull the strings of world events from behind the curtain.
The theory goes that the whole structure was intentional. It all started with Cecil Rhodes's dream of a secret society to basically run the world. Milner was his hand-picked guy to make it happen. Milner's Kindergarten wasn't just a cute nickname, it was the inner circle, the real engine room. And their strategy was simple: get their people into the top jobs in government, in banking, in the media. That way, they created an invisible government that made sure their agenda kept moving forward, no matter who officially won an election.
And the agenda? Oh, it was way bigger than just saving the empire. In this version of the story, Imperial Federation was just step one. The real long-term goal was a new world order, a single global state run by an Anglo-American elite. This worldview claims they actually pushed Britain into World War I on purpose, just to smash their rival empires and redraw the map of the world. And all along, they used their powerful connections to international bankers like J.P. Morgan and the Rothschilds to bankroll the whole thing.
But you have to wonder, what could possibly motivate a plan that huge, that ambitious, spanning over a century? Well, this is where the narrative gets even deeper. The argument is that this massive political project wasn't just about power, it was built on a very specific and very strange prophetic belief system.
That belief is called British Israelism. It's this whole theology that says the Anglo-Saxon peoples are the direct, literal descendants of the lost tribes of Israel from the Bible. In this view, the British royal family is actually the continuation of King David's throne. And here's the kicker. If that's true, then it gives the British Empire a divine, God-given right to rule the world and fulfill biblical prophecy.
This chart really shows how it all clicks together. According to this worldview, you see the group's political goals on one side, and then you see the real prophetic meaning on the other. So that push for an Anglo-American alliance? That's not just geopolitics. It's seen as the biblical reunion of the lost tribes of Ephraim, which is Britain, and Manasseh, which is the USA. That imperial federation plan? That's really about restoring a worldwide Davidic government. And their support for Zionism? A critical move to make sure end times prophecies come true.
So, of course, this leads us to the million-dollar question. Was the guy who started it all, Cecil Rhodes, actually a believer in this stuff? Was British Israelism his motivation? Well, the answer is, it's complicated. Let's just look at the historical record. There is no smoking gun. You won't find a letter or a diary entry where Rhodes writes, "I am a British Israelite." But the overlap is pretty hard to ignore. This belief was really popular in the elite circles he ran in. His own private writings are full of this language about the British being the finest race, or a chosen race that was destined to rule the planet. And his political goals lined up perfectly with the goals of the British Israelite movement. So much so that after he died, they pretty much claimed him as one of their own heroes.
Okay, so let's bring this all into the 21st century. How does this 100-year-old story about empires and prophecy get used to explain what's happening in our world, right now? Well, this is where the theory becomes a complete worldview, almost like a secret map for understanding modern power.
This chart is fascinating. It shows how this theory sorts today's leaders and groups into different factions in this ongoing historical drama. So you have the old British establishment, seen as the original Rhodes-Milner line. Then there's Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. They're seen as the modern, public-facing managers of the globalist project. Benjamin Netanyahu represents the Zionist pillar, a key piece of the puzzle. Donald Trump gets cast as the wild card, the populist who's trying to wreck the whole system. And then you have guys like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, who are seen as building the tech infrastructure for the next stage of control.
So in this worldview, no major conflict happens in a vacuum. The war in Ukraine? It's seen as a proxy war designed to weaken Russia and pull the old Western alliance tighter together. The conflict in Israel and Palestine? That's viewed as just another move in a long-term plan for a greater Israel. Even smaller tensions, like between Thailand and Cambodia, are interpreted as pressure points in the bigger fight between the West and China. And according to this framework, all of this chaos, all these fires, are being used to push toward one ultimate goal, to justify and roll out a global digital control grid. We're talking digital IDs, central bank digital currencies, AI surveillance, the whole shebang.
And that brings us right up to the minute. In this framework, a company like OpenAI isn't just a cool tech company. It's seen as the direct heir to the Milner Group's original mission. You know, back then, the Round Table used journals and think tanks to shape what powerful people thought. Today, OpenAI is seen as building the ultimate tool, an AI system that can automate control over the world's stories and decisions.
So, after all of that, you have to ask the big question. Why? Why does a story this complicated, this detailed, and this old still have so much power for so many people today? Why does it stick around?
Well, from the perspective we've been looking at, the answer is that you're seeing a system with three major power centers that are all connected. You've got the original Round Table bloodline of the Anglo-American establishment, you've got the Zionist geopolitical network, and you've got the modern globalist managers like the WEF. The theory holds that these groups, who used to work together, are now fighting with each other, and their internal power struggles are what's causing all the chaos we're seeing in the world today.
But really, when you boil it all down, the power of a grand narrative like this is that it creates order out of what feels like total chaos. It gives you one single story, with clear good guys and bad guys, and a secret history that connects everything from a war in South Africa to artificial intelligence. It gives you a sense of understanding in a world that can often feel completely random and out of control.
And I think that's the final thought we'll leave you with. Whatever you happen to believe about the Milner Group, the fact that these incredibly detailed historical stories continue to persist and evolve tells us something really fascinating about ourselves, about our deep human need to find patterns, to find order, and to find meaning in the epic story of our world.